people have too much stereotypes and too much stigma about India. The business models in Singapore aren't too diversified. People are thinking of a high-level business model play than technical innovation. But in India, we see a lot of tech founders who knows how to do the development work, who knows how to create new IP.
The funding winter in Southeast Asia continues. I haven't seen too many positive exits in the region.
India exit market is crazy. 200 mil, you're always in this whole zombie state of like, oh, I'm very big, but too big for anyone here to buy me.
You guys were interviewing youth about what is defined as rich, and a common number that I kept seeing was 300,000
Yes.
riyal. A normal, traditional, typical career will take someone a long time before they get 300k.
The conventional income stream might not be enough. I see more people going through a portfolio career path. That's where they can truly do their passion job.
Hi everyone, Prantik here for Thai Talks. I'm very excited to host Vanessa today. I've known Vanessa for a long time in different avatars, right from Quest Ventures, NUS Angel Ventures. She's an influencer in her own right. She's doing a lot of cross-border work between Singapore and India. Because I think not too many people have the experience or the exposure in both markets. What are the collaboration opportunities that she foresees? How does she look at the evolving Singapore startup ecosystem, and also her personal ambitions, given she's so multifaceted? So thank you for tuning in, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Prantik, for not just having me here, but across all your many Thai events as well.
What's the best way that you would introduce yourself to someone who's meeting you for the first time?
Right, I bucket myself into two main pillars after so many years of trying to define it. One is startup investment, of course, with a specialty of fintech over the last few years. And the next is media, both traditional and digital media as well. Anything when it comes to startup investment and media, people can look for me.
Fantastic. I think very, very clear. I love your clarity of thought. And I'm going to jump straight from the fact that, you've just recently visited the FinTech Festival in Mumbai, right? I loved following your Insta stories, your LinkedIn posts, the auto rickshaw pictures. Give us a flavor of, what was your experience like, at the FinTech Festival and in Mumbai?
The previous trip was my 8th time in India, which is more than some of my friends who were born there and moved here, actually. All sorts of places from Mumbai, Bangalore. I've done Lucknow, Odisha as well for our project. It was my second time to Global FinTech Festival as well. I got to speak about Global South, moderated a panel there and met a lot of amazing people. I think the interesting thing is that the forums there are very vibrant. It's huge. It's everyone is very hungry and motivated. From the junior level staff to a senior management, everyone's there with a very, very strong purpose. Even the very senior C-level folks. Some things I've learned from there that I hope we can transfer back to the Singapore startup ecosystem is, one, everyone there is quite lean, bootstrap. I think resource income scarce. Money is not easily raised there as compared to here where capital is just flushing everywhere. Unit economics are built very strong from day one. And it's very different from builders or founders here where everyone's spending a lot on fancy co-working spaces and salaries even before they are making revenue. So that's something I hope to transfer from India to Singapore. I do see also a lot of semblance as well. Like the regulatory transparency is pretty high, both markets. Can't wait to go back more and do more things as well in India.
The two things that I loved about your answer is, firstly, there are very few Singaporeans who've been to so many cities, let alone been to India so many times. The fact that you've visited Lucknow, Odisha, that's fascinating. And, and I want to deep dive on that because I think there's a lot of importance in the work that you're doing in terms of, making friends, building these bridges. Because, of course, India is not unfamiliar to Singaporeans, but, because of historical linkages, it's mostly been southern cities, Chennai, etc. But it's great to see that you are building bridges in many other parts of India. I'm going to ask you this now. By the time this comes out, it's pretty much FinTech Week in Singapore, right? The Singapore FinTech Festival is considered to be one of the best FinTech events in the world. It's come a long, long way. From your experience, how would you sort of compare and contrast? What's similar? What's different?
So Global FinTech Festival, from my analysis, is about like 50% payments. We have a lot of like lending companies there. 20% insurtech. We got a fair bit of regtech and cybersecurity as well. Singapore is still quite banking focused. all the big banks and tech focus as well. We have
Right.
the Google, the Microsoft, and international, the Tencents of the world will be there. While we're called Singapore FinTech Festival, it is still very global by nature. And the interesting part is we have a lot of tech companies who started off doing things like cloud development that eventually go into financial services. They'll be there, but they're not financial services from day one. So that's quite a big difference. But in India, I think because the financial services space is so big and so mature, you'll see the usual folks that have done the largest payments company of India there. And what I thought was interesting was quite a lot of them are moving into Middle East next. They're moving to Southeast Asia next, even though India itself is such a big market for themselves already.
Interesting. That's a pretty good compare and contrast. Vanessa, let's sort of go back to your, now let's sort of go back to your life and your journey from your formative years, right? Maybe just give us a flavor of what was your schooling journey like when you were growing up? What aspirations did you have? Which school did you go to? What was that journey like?
Yeah, so I came from a very humble family, neighborhood school. I went into a junior college path. So junior college was the first time when I entered the media career, which is any proper professional work that I've done. And I was like 15. How it started, my whole social media work, which eventually kind of spun out into the rest of my media work, was joining a competition called the New Paper, New Face. I saw the ad on the newspaper. Didn't tell my parents about it. I was joining for fun, for the experience. Never thought I'll get anywhere anyway. Didn't tell them. They found out somehow on, like, I forgot the news or something.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened a couple of years later when I was in university and I joined a MediaCorp competition called Star Search, which is like an acting competition in the Chinese channels.
Yeah.
And my parents found out, I think, on one of the ads on Channel 8, because I never told them. I never thought it will come up to anything or like the results will be anything positive. So I never told them. So they were all pleasant surprises. So I think it was like the media work that I'd done through like pageants, modeling competitions that gave me a lot of exposure to talking and making friends with much older friends.
Yeah.
And then eventually I met quite a lot of very entrepreneurial people, met people from finance. So I had the privilege to meet and get a lot of experiences from much older people, even at like 15, 16, 17 years old.
Nice.
And then I started doing a lot of emceeing work. So I did a lot of finance, corporate events, eventually government events. And when I host all these different conferences, I'm sitting down watching and listening to all the panels and discussions. And I just took all the knowledge and information in. And I think a huge part of the early work I've done in media alongside my university days have translated to all the things I'm doing now in the fintech startup ecosystem, but still having a lot of work in emceeing and social media as well.
Fascinating. So let's say if I had met Vanessa when you were in, when she was in JC1, JC2, what was your sort of career ambition like? Was it mostly on the media, hosting, emceeing side, or you had other ambitions?
I had a very predictable path in media where I could probably do full-time influencer if I wanted to. I had a contract with MediaCorp, which I can continue doing acting full-time as well. But I never thought it was intellectually stimulating enough. Even if the money was okay, I wanted to be surrounded by a different kind of people who we could talk more about like business, the economics, the world. I didn't have the same conversations back in my media world. And also eventually as a girl as well, we eventually grow older. Demand for you gets lesser. And I was very real, even at a young age doing media, that this won't last forever. But doing something within business or finance have a longer shelf life.
Yeah.
So I was quite realistic from day one already. And it eventually evolved to thinking about doing corporate life, like management consulting. And my first offer letter post uni was for consulting, but turned it down to join like the startup space. High risk, not sure about whether it's high reward yet, but we'll see. Yeah.
Beautiful. So yeah, let's talk about NUS, right? Obviously, I know how active you've been on the NUS, sort of the angel ventures, because again, I'm an alumni as well, and something after having gone through the NOC program, which I'm very blessed to, one thing that I was very happy when I sort of met you and your whole team when you guys kickstarted NAV was, we've heard the Harvards and the Stanfords or the INSEADs have their investment clubs, but something that I thought was missing in the NUS and NTUs Tell us a bit about NAV. How did that come about? What was the inspiration? And what's your experience at NAV been like?
Yeah, Prantik, I think for the sake of the audience, I'll give a quick introduction about what we do. We call ourselves NUS Angel Ventures that got rebranded into NUS Alumni Ventures a few years ago. It's Southeast Asia's first student and alumni-run angel network that came out from the universities. We made it student alumni-run because everywhere else in Stanford, Tsinghua, etc., alumni were the only ones running it, but we wanted the students to be involved. And back then also, honestly, I was year 3 when we just started it. If we don't make it student alumni run, we wouldn't be part of it. So it was for our own reasons as well. We started it because back then I was running like a fashion subscription startup, similar to Style Theory, which just recently closed. So for maybe good reasons why we didn't take off as well, with other student founder friends. And we realized that it's a huge pool of NUS alumni like yourself and a whole bunch of other big founders that all came from NUS. But why was there this whole big divide between the alumni from the 05 to 2010 batch to like our current batch? Yeah. Shouldn't there be a transfer of knowledge and even investment? And no one was doing that. So we started going on cold LinkedIn outreach, and that's how we got the first 40, which were the hardest. And then eventually we grew to about 110 NUS alumni who actively mentor and angel invest in companies. Eventually, we grew the pie to more than just supporting NUS startups, to any startups that come our way through, of course, due diligence. And we've managed to place about 30 plus students or fresh graduates in VC, PE, family office roles, either as interns or full-time as well. So it was a very good platform for students at NUS to get exposure and also the first leg into the private markets, which is generally very competitive.
This is a beautiful initiative that you've kickstarted, and thanks for sort of the transition towards alumni, because I think you're right. I mean, why sort of waste that linkage and knowledge transfer? And that's a beautiful segue to your journey. You know, the next sort of avatar I saw of yourself was in Quest Ventures in the VC world, right? And of course, we'll talk about FinTech Nation, but maybe let's start about your experience at a homegrown VC like Quest with Jeff, James, Yiping. What was that? Because this is also during the time pre-COVID where perhaps in the Southeast Asia context, a lot of capital was available. There's a lot of momentum, a lot of government support, which still exists. What was your experience like?
I think there was there was a bit before the big summer 2022 funding summer. Right before that, a lot of funds could raise money, which I don't see that now, and also last year in 2024. It was not too difficult for people to fill up their rounds in 6 months or 12 months, especially even if the fund sizes were a bit larger. And people were just more open to investing in startups. So it was very exciting. It was new. Everybody wanted to be an angel investor and co-invest with us. We had a lot of demand. But fast forward a couple of years, a lot of money have shifted to the more liquid asset classes. And like private credit or shorter term funds. You're not looking for a 7 to 10 year exit. I think back then, at my Quest Ventures days, the market was just so much more optimistic, but it leaves me worried that if so much money is moving out of the startup investment, what's going to happen to the up and coming startups? What do you think, Prantik?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's having been through that journey, I think I would fall in that category. So as disclosure, I'm one of the LPs at Quest Ventures and a few others. I started investing in the ecosystem as an angel or VC between 2019 to 2021. A lot has changed and shifted. And I think but I also noticed that it depends on the geography. So I think the funding winter in Southeast Asia continues the way I see. I haven't seen too many positive exits in the region. And I think if that doesn't happen, the money doesn't sort of flow back for future investments. And what I notice is, I think in the US and India, whilst, in Singapore, the beautiful part is there's no capital gains tax. The flip side of US, India is the valuations are higher, the markets are larger, there's domestic demand, and there's a lot more risk appetite, at least in the US. So what I'm seeing in the US is a lot of those companies who have survived have either pivoted, and if they have pivoted, they've gotten larger valuations, larger rounds. A lot of the companies are choosing to stay private. In India, I think a few of the companies that I invested are now trying to capitalize on the IPO window. And I think the India IPO market for the last 3-4 years has been fairly hot, left, right, and center. In Southeast Asia, I think the flavor is different. What I'm hoping for is more strategic exits. Even myself, when I ran Happy Market, it was a strategic M&A. And I think, hopefully, I know SGX is looking at various ways to sort of capitalize on the IPO to sort of through different policies. Nonetheless, these need to happen for the ecosystem to thrive.
Exactly. India exit market is crazy. I forgot some of the conversations that I had with some incredible stats about the number of exits and IPOs in the stock exchange. It goes in the thousands or something. And we don't see the same thing here across Southeast Asia. I think strategic makes sense. 100 to 200 mil, we can have a very strong exit opportunity to one of the Japanese player or US players or a much larger unicorn player here. Past 200 mil, your company might be stuck or you really have to go big or go home. If not, you're always in this whole zombie state of like, oh, I'm very big, but too big for anyone here to buy me. Or if not, I have to go to NASDAQ.
Last week, I was at a beautiful event hosted by Tin Men. And I think I learned a few things which, from Jeremy as well as Murli and John and a few others, that I think their lens on Southeast Asia has to be very different. So for example, they're focused on B2B. They are focused on a fund of a particular size. And I think Jeremy says this very well, that unlike US and India, you don't need, $150, $200 million fund sizes, 30, 50, up to 100. Fund size is your strategy, as Jeremy rightly says. Also, I think he beautifully explained their model that you don't need to be unicorn hunting. They've taken a more PE-like approach where 6 out of 10 of your companies may succeed. They may not be unicorns. And I think that sort of rationalization is important because, as a founder myself, I, for example, always had this issue with the pure play VC model that for the VC, 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 is fine. But for the founder, that's all I've got, right? Mm-hmm. So I think you're right to say that for Southeast Asia, we need to sort of look at these models, strategics, looking at Japanese, Korean buyers or some US buyers as well, till the IPO market, hopefully, SGX figures out more liquidity. In fact, in India, one of the positive trends I'm seeing is not just the main market, but also the secondary market. In fact, I know a few Singapore B2B companies that are looking at doing two things. If they're large enough, they're reversing, for example, whether it's LiveSpace, whether it's a few other fintech companies like PhonePe, they've reversed their headquarters to list in the main market. But even some of the smaller companies, which are maybe less than 50 mil, the Indian secondary market offers pretty amazing valuations for them to exit. So I think, these are very interesting times. But for the sake of the Southeast Asia or the Singapore-led ecosystem, I'm hoping we come a full cycle when it comes to capital movement. So Vanessa, now let's talk about, again, from there you had Quest, and then of course you were working with a specific portfolio company like Party Post, right? So having been on the VC side where you're advising a company, helping a company, to then moving specifically to one company alone, was that difficult because now perhaps your breath was lost and you had to focus? Or what was your experience with when you worked with one particular portfolio company?
Yes, Jeffrey called me one day and we talked about Party Post because I do social media a lot as a content creator. And he's like, okay, this company, Party Post, might be a good fit. I told John, the founder, I would do finance. That's all I know or all I care about. I don't want to do FMCG. Other people already have done FMCG over the years. I'll do finance. Realized I asked for the hardest piece of the business to do. But we did a lot of cool things. The challenge was, going from being a generalist to being a subject matter expert. I didn't realize that while I have about up to today, maybe 10 years of content creation experience, being on the other side, like the agency or the platform side is so different. You're thinking about your economics very differently. You have to manage a lot of difficult content creators, which I realized was so much more painful. Being an individual myself, receiving campaigns is very different from managing a bunch of girls who are trying to make it on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different lens to see from a management perspective. I just got the notification just last week that something I started in Party Post had finally come to life, which was like a banking integration. And this took about 1 year plus of negotiation, sales cycle, legal back and forth, but it's finally coming to life. We started working with an Indonesia bank to link via APIs with the Party Post app, so people receive money directly to the local bank app. They get much lesser fees, instant withdrawals, and other benefits as well. I didn't get to see the end of it because I've then moved on to GFTN, Global Finance and Technology Network.
Nice. I want to touch about your life as an influencer because there are so many interesting facets that I see on your Instagram.
You're a huge influencer too. I mean,
I wish no one pays me yet. I saw a video where you were part of an election campaign.
Oh, yes.
Tell us more. How did that happen? What was that experience like to actually be on stage during an election campaign?
Yeah, that was one of my most nerve-wracking experience. Although I've done or MC for shows with 3,000 people, I've been on national TV multiple times, but this is one of the most scary one ever. So I met one of the advisors for the party through different dinners and events. And I met someone very interesting who was advising for Minister K. Shanmugam. And he was listening to my stories and he wanted to connect with the Gen Z audience more. Gen Z is harder to catch, right? Do they even care about elections? Do they care about different political parties? They're a bit more tuned out, which is true. Before this election, I was less vested into any other elections, even in the previous GE. So he wanted me to give a speech in the rally to talk about how Singapore has given like youth a chance, which I believe and I've leveraged from the system a lot.
Yeah.
Both from scholarships, from grants, from getting access to mentors, to realizing how accessible the government subsidies are to have conversations to support your dreams. So I talked a lot of my own journey. But funny enough, I said a statement during the rally speech about me doing the Tekong Ferry video, which some of you, if you know about national service in Singapore, all the 18-year-old boys will go to this island called Tekong to do basic military training.
Yeah.
They get their hair shaved for 3 months and they only come out of the island every weekend. So in that ferry, I'm the girl who does the safety video.
Right.
And before that was some auntie in another ferry vendor.
Yeah.
And I just made a joke about, if you have any brothers or you've been to NS, you'll see me, just to like warm up the audience before my rally speech. But that became like the only thing the media captured across like 8 days, across multiple media channels. They didn't care about like, me talking about how Singapore has empowered youth dreams. But
Right.
That's fine. That's a media for you. But the rally was a very good experience. It was the first few times engaging so many other people. They've always engaged a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
But myself plus Desmond Koh from Noon Talk, who leads a public listed media
Yeah.
company, we were part of the speaking lineup as well.
Someone, and I was telling the Thai audience that, look, I'm going to be hosting Vanessa. Someone had a very good question that people see that, you live in a beautiful apartment facing MBS, lots of firework. What does one need to do to get access to Vanessa Ho's school parties?
My house parties are when I can take off my makeup, wear my pajamas and just like host people. And I like to bring people together. So I do that with my friends, my closest friends all the time for any occasion. I even had like a happy resignation party at one point in time or anti-Valentine's Day party. But besides all these random house parties, I just hosted a dinner where my friend is trying to launch his own private dining concept. So I brought people together to give him feedback, to help him get his business started. Myself and my housemate, who's a founder of an education company called Zenith, we co-hosted a lot of people within the startup and VC ecosystem at our function room. So I rented a place for my own pleasure and convenience, but also to bring people together, like a little community, but not in a very official or formal setting.
Clearly, you love meeting people, getting people together. That seems to be part of your second nature.
That's you too, That's super true. Connector, right?
That's true. I definitely enjoy that. The other thing they did ask me was about, I think recently you posted about the FinTech run. You're obviously very much into fitness. We'll talk about your golfing journey. So is that only the running is only for fintech folks, or is there a broader community that you run with, exercise with?
Wow, that was so random. It started with two people, Vinay Palatinka from Tunes, as well as Tiffany from GFTN, who leads partnerships. I crashed the run because I wanted to catch up with them over coffee, but it was easier to catch up over a run somehow. And then we just started inviting and then combining meetings together, bump into people on the streets that came from NAV. So three of the members were NAV people who went on a run without inviting me. Can you believe that? FinTech, 3 members who met through
You
NAV.
should sue them.
Did not invite me. But then they joined us. So it was completely spontaneous. I think we'll end up doing more, but that was completely impromptu. But throughout the whole run, we were talking. We made 2 pit stops. Terrible run time of 7 km per hour. But we had so many good conversations, even while running. So
not bad.
Yeah.
How did golf come about? Did you always want to play, or was it more a networking angle, or you just wanted to learn something new?
A lot of people assume that I do golf and all these sports for networking, but funny enough, no. I started playing it during COVID because it was the only few sports that can give you fresh air. The beautiful part about the sport is 3 things, right? One is you get matchmake with random people at different events like charity golf, different golf. Sometimes you join with one friend, you meet other people in the same flight. You're just kind of forced to have this conversation for 5 hours. And 5 hours is a very long time to get to know someone.
Yeah.
And you see how they react as well. Are they calm, or are they like full rage, poor temper kind of people as well? It's very reflective. Second is I guess while you don't get as much nature in our day-to-day lives, it's one time you see a lot of greens. You're plugged in, you see water, you feel very calm and zen. I think that 5 hours I feel so zen. Sometimes I switch off my phone and put it on airplane mode and just be undisturbed as well.
Nice.
And the third part is that it keeps you very calm and patient. I don't think I'm the most patient person. I try to do too many things at one time. Very, very impatient, but golf keeps me very patient because the more frantic you are, the worse you play.
Right.
So you have to keep your heart still. So I think there are a lot of things that transferred. But it's only this year, after 4 years of playing golf, that I started joining like business golf events. It's good. A lot of private equity folks, surprisingly, that I see, finance, banking folks, but that was never the intention.
Is it a myth, or is it true that golf is a expensive person sports, or is that a myth, or is that reality? Is it expensive?
It is not cheap, but the good thing is a lot of communities have started to make things very accessible. They've done brand deals and partnerships with places. They do range sessions such that the cost is divided and split across everybody.
Right.
If you're someone out there who wants to pick up golf and you're worried that it's expensive or it's intimidating to start on your own, there are places like Golf Hub. There's like Tea Time Goes for girls only. My best friend runs it. 1,000 members, pure girls community, a much friendlier environment. Everyday, many other golf communities that got started to make things very democratized and friendly as well.
Nice.
So it's good that all these started coming up in the last 2 years.
Last 3 years. I want to move towards your life as well as get your lens on Singapore's youth and Singapore's future. It's when I talk to my younger Singaporean friends, generally, some of them are looking at 5Cs, some of them are talking about HDB, BTOs. But when I look at you, and again, this could be just my perception based on social media, that, you're living in MBS, you're sharing apartments with co-founders, you travel to many other countries, be it Thailand or India often. Would you say Vanessa Ho is an outlier in the Singaporean youth, or are you seeing a lot more Gen Z live the lifestyle that you're leading today?
I see myself as an outlier now, but now times have increasingly changed. I think that Gen Zs now want more freedom, want more choices. They want to do things not just for the future, which our parents are like, okay, we have to save for a better future in the future. Right now, I think the younger audience, not just the Gen Zs, but the younger millennials, are seeing the value of rewarding ourselves throughout the journey so that we can last longer and not just burn out for the future. When our knees get a bit rusty and we can't climb mountains anymore, I think we see the difference where we are planning for the future, but also taking the time to enjoy a bit now. Living independently and out of home for myself started since 18, which is very rare. It's very common in US, but very rare in Singapore. But I see among my peers, more people moving out for the freedom, but also like having the enjoyment of spending time with friends, co-living, co-hosting parties like mine. Singaporeans are moving out of Singapore as well to work, especially in Bangkok. I see that's a very big theme right now. I see it coming up more and more as cost of living increases here, but also how some of what we call in what Gen Z terms, the woke Singaporeans finding Singapore to be too stifling, too many rules that they can express themselves more in other markets as well.
And how do you or how are your friends having these conversations? Is that a very difficult conversation to have, or it's more like, you know what, let me do this, I'll deal with the feedback later?
I've been fortunate that my parents have been very open to me experimenting with new ideas, new career options, even the riskier ones. But I can imagine that a lot of Asian family would have a lot of reservation. Whether it's their career choices, moving out of home, I think it is a luxury and a privilege to have an environment or parents and our upbringing that allows you to take that risk.
Right.
And I really hope that more families will be more open to that, because I think, especially now in the times of volatility, now's pretty much the best time to take risks, because whatever you think is stable is not stable tomorrow. So why not just take the first bold step, do something different? Whether it's a business choice or a lifestyle choice, I think now's the best time.
Well said. You know, I was reflecting about a couple of videos that you had shared. I think one was earlier this week. You guys were interviewing youth about what is defined as rich. And a common number that I kept seeing in the Insta video was 300,000 a year.
Yes.
And one thing I learned from at least that group was a lot of young Singaporeans are building what they call portfolio careers. Perhaps like you know, you do different things. So two things, right? One is, are you seeing young Singaporeans build portfolios? Is that a trend? And B, if a young Singaporean, let's say someone who's graduated from NUS today, or maybe with 2 years work experience, if they want to get to that 300K, right, to feel rich or be an accredited investor, what's the path? Like, because I'm guessing a normal, traditional, typical career will take someone a long time before they get 300K. What would be your advice be to young Singaporeans?
Got it. I think starting on the point on portfolio career first, they just need more sources of income because the day job is simply not enough.
Yeah.
Second is that's where they can truly do their passion job. Even in GFTN, we have national cyclists, we have a professional pickleball player, a drummer who plays professionally at different bands, multi-hatted people in the office right now. It's where they find big joy and they can also make some sort of side cash from that passion job as well. But I think the path to 300K plus also this portfolio portfolio career path is a lot of sacrifices. You can't do everything and expect to not sacrifice anything. So there will be sacrifices, cutting a lot of social time or the enjoyment time in order to make it work. If not, your portfolio career is just going to be a mess.
Are you seeing more Singaporean younger folks willing to take entrepreneurial risk? So let's say in the last 7-8 years that you might have been in the ecosystem, are you seeing more Singaporeans wanting to be tech founders?
I see more people trying to start their own companies while having their day jobs first and experimenting until the startup has gotten to a certain stage and certain validation before leaving their job, which I think is the best way to do it. To keep the your day job income so that you're not stressed, you're not worried about rushing to raise money just to feed your family. But coming to a certain point of validation before doing it full time.
Right.
More people are taking that risk. But the only challenge is, compared to, say, India, the business models in Singapore aren't too diversified. People are thinking of very platform play, very a high-level business model play than technical innovation. But in India, we see a lot of technical founders themselves who knows how to do the development work, who knows how to create new IP. But here, I don't see it as much as, say, other parts of the world.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully I'm wrong. But hoping to see more innovation coming up. And the good thing is, I think a lot of corporates now in Singapore have set up innovation labs for their own employees to experiment with new ideas that might eventually spin off into a new startup.
Yeah.
I know DBS has a mandate for every employee to be involved in this innovation lab some way or another.
Yeah.
And it's good that corporates are taking this first step as well.
Yeah. And I think what I find very fascinating about your journey as well, and I want to touch upon this, you've now been to India so many times. You've been to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. I would love to get your viewpoint. What's your honest, good, bad, ugly experience or point of view for fellow Singaporeans who may not have been to India, who may have at best been to maybe a Chennai, Bangalore? Uh, as a tourist, as a professional, what's your advice?
I think people have too much stereotypes and too much stigma about India. Some might be true, especially in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. But in the tier 1, you can't imagine how beautiful Mumbai is. The BKC area, like our CBD, is sometimes even fancier than our restaurants here in Singapore. So I don't think people realize that the nice stuff in India are actually really, really nice. One thing I don't see yet in India is that the gender equality there hasn't caught up to the rest of the world yet.
Yeah.
Over here, I don't feel any gender gap as much or at all.
Right.
But in India, especially in tier 2 cities or below, you do feel that.
Fair point. No, I'm glad you bring these honest perspectives, because like I said, I mean, there's a saying that in India, for every truth, there's a contrarian non-truth, because the country is so big and it's diverse. And, I want to get to your journey with GFTN. It's a relatively new entity in Singapore. So 2 questions I have around that is, one is, what is GFTN for people who may not have heard about GFTN? And then I'll touch upon something on Odisha. So what's GFTN?
GFTN is Global Finance and Technology Network for short. It's a spin-off from MAS. And this is the closest to public sector I can imagine myself working in.
So not politics, but closest to.
Correct. So the core business in the last 10 years, in its previous name, Elavandi, has been doing forums like Singapore FinTech Festival, Point Zero Forum in Switzerland. We have a forum in Japan and many other places in the world now as well. Forum is something we're still doing. It's always working with the central bank or the state government to establish a fintech forum to create mind share and to bring international players to a certain country. The team is going to Tbilisi in Georgia next, and Armenia as well. And the value GFTN brings is bring all these international folks from China, from Japan, from Singapore, from India to different markets as well. So it's like the global node. Advisory is a very new business for us. We work with central banks, state governments to consult, provide advice on the central bank structure, policies, as well as help them set up fintech hubs over a 4 to 5 year long project. I'm very excited to get started on the very first one, which is in Orissa, in Bhubaneswar as a start. We're working with the Ministry of IT and Electronics to launch this project called Bhubaneswar. It's called Bharat Netra. And we are going to establish the InsurTech hub in Eastern India. We're bringing in the Japanese insurers to hire talents from there. NUS will be training the young graduates in InsurTech skills and FinTech skill sets to be more globally hireable. And setting up also a forum there called Black Swan Summit in India next February. So a lot of things going to happen there. I'll be managing the startup incubation piece there and also looking for more insurers and banks to hire the talents that will be fresh out of the boat from the NUS course to work in.
That's so fascinating. And I think this is exactly what I really hope, what I was alluding to earlier, that I think there's so much scope for cross collaboration, exchanges, learnings, not just at, I was telling someone that every time I hear about Singapore, India at a particular government event, I always hear about the big companies, CapitaLand, Keppels and JTCs, which is great at the DBS, Singtels, but the student exchanges, the incubation, the learning, and especially what fascinates me is that this is happening in a state like Odisha, right, which is up and coming.
The next project we're working on is Central Asia, but not the very obvious ones. So I think a very exciting part of my GFTN work with alongside the rest of our team and my amazing bosses is going to visit and understand the pain points in all these like less obvious markets. They're definitely emerging.
Right.
Some are from the global south, some are in the northern side of the world where and identifying how fintech can be a solution to all these different pain points. And I get to travel to all these different places. Some are more enjoyable than the others.
I must say, an enviable life, but you deserve it so much because again, you've put yourself out there, you're open to opportunities. And that brings me to my fun rapid fire round, right? So all you got to do is honestly spit out the answer that comes to your mind, right? Let's start with an easy one. Your favorite investment?
My favorite investment. I am just I have just made some money. I'm a couple of multiples up on Haymax, the mouse company. Very fun app to use. I use it myself.
Awesome. Your favorite Singaporean influencer apart from yourself?
A favorite Singapore influencer. Who's my favorite Wow, this one will be very contentious because I have so many influencer friends here. So I won't say my favorite Singapore influencer, but my favorite YouTuber is Ali Abdal.
All right.
Do you watch Ali Abdal?
I do, and I just saw a post that he and his wife have moved to Hong Kong and I've got a new office.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to Hong Kong.
I know. A book that you've read recently that you liked.
Wow, I'm so slow on reading. I got a lot of catching up, but I just bought Source Code from Bill Gates. So I'll get started on that and I'll tell you about it.
All right. Your favorite city in India?
Mumbai.
Your favorite golfer?
My favorite golfer. I got to play with Dustin Johnson during the Live Golf Pro-Am. He's the sweetest, most fun guy ever. Yes, Dustin Johnson.
Your favorite Singaporean dish?
Laksa.
Your favorite Indian dish?
Mutton biryani.
Not bad. And
Pani puri.
And Pani Puri. Not bad. You survived that. Well done. And your Vanessa Ho in 2035. What's a likely career that Vanessa would be pursuing in 2035?
I think I'll be running my own business, which is unlikely going to be tech, funny enough. But I think I'll be also running a portfolio, either as a fund or if not working for or with a fund.
Your best moment as a event host or MC?
My best moments. Wow, I think every show just gets better and better. But I think, oh yes, I know one. I got to introduce Vitalik last year during Token event. I was emceeing for Morph Layer 2 and I introduced the whole Ethereum Foundation team, including Vitalik himself. And the crowd went wild. And I felt like a ringmaster at that point in time.
Fantastic. Your favorite influencer campaign that you have been involved in?
I got to go to Thailand to MC for BMW Golf Cup. That's the World Championship, and met everybody that I still became friends with. As well as so many media trips also. I got flown around a couple of times to like Turkey, Switzerland, and many other places as part of this privilege.
Your most embarrassing moment as an influencer or a host?
Oh, wow. So many. But spilling coffee on my white dress right before speaking on a panel at FinTech Festival India in last year.
Ouch. And how does Vanessa Ho define success?
I think success is ikigai. I don't want to go too deep into it, but finding something that's so purposeful, something that makes money and the world needs, and finding that intersection that I haven't found yet, but I wish the best for everybody listening to find this ikigai and this success.
Has Vanessa Ho found her ikigai?
Not yet. I hope to one day.
All right, Vanessa, I could go on. There's so much more to explore, but the timer is ticking. Thank you so much for doing, leading such an authentic life. Thank you so much for joining us for Thai Talks.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of this fascinating conversation with Vanessa. And I think, as we sort of conclude, this is sort of my reflection based on this conversation. And I think this is specifically for, folks in the startup ecosystem in Singapore, Southeast Asia, and India. I think the three things that I admire her for and I learn is, I think, just to have an open mind and, be open to opportunities and, experiment, because you never know what sticks. Hopefully, more and more folks across Singapore, Southeast Asia, and India can do so, because I just think as a region, we only benefit if we sort of build these bridges and friendships and sort of collaborate across opportunities. So hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation. Keep watching Thai Talks. Thanks for tuning in.